Okay, making a raffle wheel by Pat Brown. Okay, as mentioned, we're giving away 2 tickets to 360 iDev. So as we were talking about how to give it away, we thought it'd be cool if we got to make the raffle wheel sort of while we were here. So that's what I'm going to attempt to do. But I'll start off by sort of saying, like, what is a one-day build? That's something that I started iOS development about just over 2 years ago, and I sort of put together a bunch of tools and tactics to help me learn. One of those things is a one-day build. And yeah, we'll talk a bit about that, then we'll see how that applies to making a raffle wheel, and then I'll sort of just touch up on some final thoughts about learning and my approach to learning. So what is a one-day build? It originally started because I wanted to sort of simulate what it would be like to be working in the industry. So I thought I'll give myself a project to do for a month and sort of kind of replicate what it would be like working sort of in the industry. And that ended up getting cut down to 7 days because I'm like, all right, well, a month by the time I started, I'll kind of lose interest, or there'll be something that I'll find challenging and get caught up on it. And then I sort of settled in 7 days, and then I saw a thing by the Mythbusters guy, Adam Savage, called One Day Builds. I'm like, oh, 1 day, perfect, even better. So the point of it was to sort of force me to keep sort of iterating and relearning things that I had learned, rather than sort of do sort of the setup stuff and then get caught up on the complicated things. I wanted to force myself to continually do the initial stuff so I remembered it. And I thought, yeah, 1 day was a good opportunity to do that. Anyway, the thing on the side is just a little template I had on my phone originally. And the idea is you should be able to describe what it is you're doing just in a really brief sentence. If it's too big, or if you can't sort of just list a few requirements, then you need to break it down. If you like, originally I wanted to build a word search game, and that was too broad. And then I'm like, all right, well, what I can do is I can build the actual gesture stuff, and like they highlight words. And I'm like, all right, well, the words being highlighted, I don't really need to do that at the start. I can just work out how to draw a line from a dot to a dot. And that was like, I kept trying to make it as simple as possible because I didn't really know how to program this stuff, so I didn't know how to anticipate how long it would take. But yeah, so you describe what it is, capture the requirements, and then you propose a solution. And now you do that without touching any code. So you'll like, without going online and looking at anything, you'll sort of go, all right, I'll use this and this, and this is how it will fit together, just roughly. Then you go and you'll code it, and after you're done, you kind of evaluate, all right, well, did I use the tools that I thought I was going to use? Did I learn something new that I didn't know before? Was my assumption about something else incorrect and needs to be refined? But yeah, that helped me retain certain information. I felt anyway. I felt it was a good way to do it for me anyway. All right, let's make a raffle wheel. Now, this is the tough part. First of all, we all know what a raffle wheel is, hopefully. Well, not hopefully, but like I'm showing pictures here. But yeah, I thought, what do we got? Okay, final thoughts. I was just going to ask, I had a link to a demo of a like online raffle wheel, but we won't go into that. What features do you think I would put down for a raffle wheel? What are the minimum requirements, the must-have? Because I want to add a list of names, right? I want to do a bunch of stuff.
Spins, I guess.
Spins? He's on the money. But
something circular,
yep, a wheel. I like it. I'm just going to bring up my notes. So yeah, so I kind of thought initially when I thought about this, I'm like, all right, well, we can do a list and sort of have like add and remove names, and then or we could also do like a text editor that you can just dump a list of names, because if there's a bunch of people entering the raffle, I thought it'd be challenging to kind of go add, remove sort of multiple things. And I'm like, all right, well, what if people have the same name? And then there's sort of things like, all right, well, they can have a unique name. But then already it's getting a bit too complex, where it's like, all right, well, do I really need to have for tonight anyway the ability to add or remove names? Or can I just write down the names in code for tonight? And that's all right, cool. I definitely need a wheel that spins. I know that much. And yeah, it's kind of the two things that I kind of think is something that visually looks like a wheel, and the ability for me on demand to sort of interactively spin it. So that's kind of where we're at with that. This is one I prepared earlier. Now this is just an empty project. I used to call my things one day build with the date and then just a name, because sometimes when I was building, if I got to the end of the day and didn't finish it, I might continue that the next day, but I'd have to start from scratch. And it sort of meant things that took me a bunch of time, I kind of had to cut them out because they were taking me too long. So I wanted to get to the fun bit that I hadn't got to yet. So I just start Raffle Wheel 2, Raffle Wheel 3 with a different date, and at least they were in order. Anyway, so roughly what I'm thinking, circle, that's a must. Then button, spin. I wonder if, you guys can see that, right? The text is big enough. We don't know what we're going to do there yet. Hey, failed. Fingers crossed previews. All right, starting to come together. Now, what I'll do is I want a list of names, which, see, this could be a bit more complex, but for today, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, and then I'm going to add state here, and this is for the rotation. I know I'm going to need that, so I'm just going to add that. So before I jump in, and because I know I need to make these wedges, I still want to test this rotation things, because I could probably do that while I'm here, just to see. I'm going to fill this with a gradient of just black and white, so we can at least see some change. Cool. Oh, wait. It says the system will time out in 2 minutes, Spock. If you don't see me in 2 minutes, sorry. All right. Spin wheel. Okay. I feel like I wanted this to be more collaborative, but I'm doing it all from memory, so I apologize. I just want to get this first base set up, and then, all right, so how many times do we want it to spin? 4 or 5, 6 at least?
Yeah, plus some random.
Plus 8, that's it. 5 spins. Rotation. Now, I don't know if the randomness generator here is sufficient, but I think in this case it will be all right. So what I intend to do is, with an animation, I feel like ease out's the way to go. 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds.
Build the suspense. 10 seconds.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
You probably want to lower the
Well,
iterations on that.
yeah, just the seconds. 3, and then we just go rotation plus equal 5 spins plus random rotation. Okay, let's see if, oh, I'm forgetting something. Spin wheel and rotation, rotation. Okay. We got something. We got something. Okay. One thing I want to add up. Did it close? Okay. Can they hear me online? Well, I'll visually describe what I'm doing. I'm putting an image, which hopefully is called arrow triangle down fill. Arrow triangle down fill. Yes, cool. I just want a little arrow up there to point to the name when they appear. All right, now I want to work on this wedge thing, which, while researching for this presentation, I found out was called a sector, which I didn't really know before. So, and then we're going to make this a shape. And func path. All right. And sometimes I like to, okay, I want a start angle and a end angle. I'm glad I haven't spelled angel instead of angle tonight. Okay. And just for the preview, I like to maybe do this. Okay. If none of this is making sense, just tell me and I can explain it. But as sector, start angle, and then degrees 45. All right, that's not really going to show much yet, but preview paused. Okay, now we want to add that wedge thing on top of that. First thing we need is a center point. So this is kind of how the circle will work anyway as a shape. So CG point. And then I suppose, yeah, so the shapes pass, like take a rectangle, which is essentially the size of the view that the shape's being drawn on. So what we want is the middle of that view. Oh, they added that? No, I don't think it's added. But lodge some feedback, you know. Normally I make an extension always, so it could be a new thing though. We'll let radius equal, and now we need, depending on the size, we want the small, just like that circle there, we want the smallest dimension, so either the width or height. So min, rect width, rect height, and we divide it by 2. And that's going to be important when we draw this arc for our path to center, path, add arc, center, radius, start angle, end angle, and false, I believe. Yay! And then we also want to close the subpath, or else if you stroke it, that's an odd sentence. If you stroke the path, it will only, like it will only do the top thing and the side. It won't do both edges. Anyway, cool. I think that's our wedge done. I'll just test it to make sure it works as expected. Yes, cool. All right. Now, we sort of need to now make a bunch of those wedges, which we'll call this the Raffle wheel, I guess. Raffle wheel. Okay, so this needs the names. What else does it need? Does it need anything else? Okay, I might take the names from here. Does it need anything else? I don't know. Oh no, colors. Let's add some colors. Ooh. Do we want a lot of colors at the start or for testing? I'm just going to throw random ones in. If someone's got a color they want to see, yell it out now. Green, blue, purple, yellow. Yellow, orange, purple. That's probably enough. Okay. Yes. Thank you, buddy. I was wondering why it wasn't giving me colors. Okay, so what do I want? I need a for each something on a Z stack. Okay, now this is, I don't know how I feel about this. I'm going to go names indices, with which it's generally, I guess, encouraged to use identified objects. I don't think it matters in this case, but yeah, I'm going to go index. Sometimes if you're mutating state and you're accessing the value like this, it can cause problems with animation that will try to look for a value that's no longer there. So just a fair warning doing this. All right, so arrays are indexed from 0 with, starting at 0. So we can dig into the names using that index and also calculate which wedge it is based on the index. So each are going to have a base angle, which is going to be angle degrees 1 divided by, so I need to know how many names there are going to be, -1, or maybe -1, we'll find out. CG float names.count. So if I have one name and one, no, it would be just the count. So it would be the count. And then times by 360. So yeah, if we have 4 names, 1 divided by 4 is going to be 2.5, and then that's a quarter of 360. So we know that that's going to be the size of each wedge. Now to know the wedge angle, we can do the base angle times by the index, which needs to be float. Okay, that's some stuff, and now we'll get the color equals index large names count. Okay, this means that if there's lots of names, it will just cycle. Once it gets to however many colors there are, it will cycle back to 0 and pick the right color. Now we'll just try with a start angle of 0 and then the base angle and see what happens. And then maybe fill with wedge color. Okay, that's okay. We got a quarter of the circle there. Oh, thanks. So it's all right. Now I need to sort of rotate each one by their wedge angle. Come on, cool, we're starting to see something. Now, the way angles will work is sort of the 0 degrees starts at that right sort of direction. If I want to just say overlay text, I could probably align it to that right side, which is the trailing side, and then add the name, which is going to be names index, and give it some padding. Maybe, cool. Now, I sort of still want to rotate that text a little bit more. So what I could probably do is, I know how much each wedge is, so I could first rotate each wedge backwards by half of the sort of amount. Cool. And then now I've got like the text on the right, padded a little bit, and hopefully, if we move into this section here, we might be able to replace that circle, which I'll get rid of that stuff. I'll comment that out. And we'll try throw our Raffle thing in there. Raffle will names. Okay, let's see what happens. Okay, it's kind of there, but there's something a little weird with the, I need to give it the rotation. Cool. Yay. All right, did it land on the thing? It didn't look, it's kind of we've got to add more names, I think. Now, does anyone know why this arrow's up here and the button's down there right now? Because it doesn't look like that with a circle. Or does anyone know how I can fix that? One way to fix it is to, well, one way I used to do, because if I go into here, I want this Raffle wheel to be like a circle, and I can go aspect ratio 1 fit. Now, if I go back to here, that works. But since iOS 16, I can get rid of that, because the issue is that the shape here doesn't work exactly like a circle, because if we stroke the border here, road width 5, border blue. Okay, we can see that the shape actually takes up more space than we want it to. Now I can fix it in the Raffle World view, but really I'd like to be able to fix it here. Now shapes now have sizeThatFitsProposal, which works with the new layout system in iOS 16. So we can go and get the diameter of the proposed size width, which is optional. So we give it infinity as an alternative. Proposal height. Cool, and then we just return size. Come on, blue line. Come on, blue line. Yeah, cool. So now the shape is doing what we want it to do. That's gone, we'll get rid of that. And yay. Okay, cool. So that is how to build a raffle wheel, sort of. But yeah, so I'm gonna go back to my presentation. I don't want to add any more features because that's outside of the scope of this discussion. But there's a lot of cool stuff. Like when I was really doing it, I was started with a drag gesture and everything. Thought it'd be fun to do that, but realized it probably would be a bit challenging while doing a presentation. But yeah, so the point of all this is that for me, it helped to have a concrete thing to work on. And sometimes it could start as something small rather than this big idea, which normally always get me caught up on doing something. And that's a method that worked for me, but it's about finding what works for you. And also do repeat yourself. Like I found it very useful to actually do the same thing over and over again. Like even if it was a bit boring, like in that sense, like, oh, you got to go through this setup. I wanted to get like second nature, which is like, I can just go through and set up, get to a point. And then as soon as I got to that challenging point, I would kind of be limited to how long I could spend on that challenging part of it. Yeah, that's about it. That's all I have. Sort of have fun. That's the main thing, I guess. That's me done. Thank you. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions?
I didn't prepare for that.
I'd be prepared for questions.
No
questions in here?
One thing, actually, to enter the draw, go on Meetup and put your name in. Or if raise of hands, who wants to win the tickets tonight as well? All right, Michael. Yeah, cool. I'll have to just, before we do the draw, I need to add your name to that.
I'll be in red.
Okay. that works. Okay.
It's probably not a short answer to this, but like what, was at least part of the source of this philosophy you've got for, I know you mentioned that.
As in the one-day build thing?
Well, and more of that, of the like getting rid of unnecessary features and stuff. Like, was there something that inspired that?
I think it was.
Way of thinking about.
It's sort of a combination. Like, oh, okay. It was what was the source, I guess, or what inspired that, I guess, methodology or philosophy of learning and sort of cutting sort of back features and sort of simplifying stuff. I think was that kind of it. Yeah. A lot of it was like, because I did work as a system administrator and sort of solution architect before in agile environments, and then I kind of got involved in projects that were a lot of startups that would always come with an idea, and so I started to put together like a blueprint of how to take an idea to a product, and I kind of had like a very sort of structured thing. It was easy for me to do for other people, but whenever it came to myself, I would always get caught up in something that I found fun and interesting, or that I would extend the scope a lot. And I just got frustrated with myself with doing that. And it was just sort of a natural progression where I'm like, right, what do I need to do for myself to actually learn and make progress, which resulted in me just being more disciplined with, these choices, or building a structure that actually helped me make better decisions, and which is the same thing, like the whole repeating. The reason it was good for one day is because the next day I'd be thinking, all right, I want to get back up to where I was, and I would just make sure I knew what to do before that. So it was just, yeah, it was just trial and error. It evolved over time.
Any more
Thanks.
questions?
Cool. Thanks, guys. Awesome.